agenda that we are discussing today.
95% of those who labor even though the outstanding rule does not see that.
The presidential system of government as practiced here in Nigeria comprises of three arms, namely the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. The legislature, as enshrined in Section 4 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, is the closest arm of government to the people. Nigeria operates a bicameral legislature. The Senate is comprising of 3 senators per state and 1 for Abuja, which makes it a total of 109. The House of Representatives has a total number of 360 members spread across the states according to their population. Quality representation as far as the legislature is concerned is the ability of a legislator to utilize his mandate in a manner that translates into purposeful bills and motions that add value to the lives of his constituency and the nation as a whole. As for a man like Barrister Emmanuel Okajev, who has had the privilege to represent the good people of Buruku Federal Constituency of Benue State, the concept of quality representation has been espoused and demonstrated both in words and in actions. This conclusion can best be derived from the role as the chairman of the most important committee of the House, a committee without which the House cannot function in the art of lawmaking. This is the Rules and Business Committee. While the role of the chairman has often been described as that of the Attorney General of the House, a role that Honorable Okajev played for a little over 3 years, what is the feeling like as the one setting agenda for both the leadership and other colleagues during the legislative days?
Okay, so the standing rules of the House, indicate that for every week you come out with what is known as a notice paper. Notice paper will contain all that we are expected to do on a given week, in that week. And then on each sitting day, you bring out an order paper. Order paper will contain all the items that you are supposed to take on that particular sitting day. It is given to the Rules and Business Committee to indicate which items will come on a particular day or in a particular week. When we came in, a lot of members were very anxious to make their mark. So in any given week, you have over 200 motions, for instance, waiting to be slated. And you can't slate more than, at the very most, you can't take more than 30 motions in a week. And so we had, as the chairman of Rules and Business, I had the unenviable task of trying to determine which should come on the order paper for that day or for that week, and we should wait for the next. And because everybody was anxious to make their mark, I came under tremendous pressure. But by God's grace, we were able to handle the pressure.
And as someone who has displayed the spirit and character of a man born to serve, there is no such word as failure in Okajev's dictionary, as he has paid his dues in service to the nation.
Speaker, Okajev, I represent the good people of Buruku, my dear colleagues. I'm from Benue State. I rise to move that a bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Peace Corps to develop, empower, and provide gainful employment for the youth, facilitate peace, volunteerism, community service, neighborhood watch, and nation building, and for related matters, be read a second time. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I so.
On the strength of the role of the chairman of Rules and Business, It is assumed that there would be encounters with regards to different kinds of feedbacks from colleagues over the course of 3 years. But hearing from the horse's mouth, how do other colleagues, including presiding officers, view Okejev's work and personality dealing with them?
I've known Honorable Jeff Okejev for a long while, a schoolmate and hostel mate dating back from 1984 to 88 in University of Jos. And we met here again as parliamentarian, first tenure, second, and then as I came back. I would say that he was very meticulous and hard-working, unassuming young man, very amiable, a team player. As the chairman, Committee on Rules and Business, I have no doubt that he would have discharged that functions creditably well, and he did. He was always available. That committee is very, very demanding. He must continue to work even when others have gone. The chairman of Rules and Business, you set the order of the house. In other words, you, apart from presiding officers, you determine what the house will do and what will not do. The order paper is done, determined and controlled by you, and he efficiently discharged that. And it's not easy to withstand the contending forces of colleagues who are either asking or demanding for competing for space in the order paper, like times like this. But he calmly tried to satisfy everybody that had a very smooth sales. It's not an easy feat. I think he tried. It's not something he also achieved overnight. It's built on his training, his conduct, his nature. He's a calm and very calculative person in his activities, and he really displayed it again. He showed it. I never saw him one day quarreling with anybody, but he managed the 360 persons who had things to be in the order paper, and that's what happened. So we thank God. We'll be missing him. I was so happy for him. He's now going to the red chambers, and I pray it will also be useful there, the way he worked for Nigeria in the 8th Assembly of the House of Reps. I wish him well. And I want to thank his people for doing fit to bring him to serve. He discharged that. To God be the glory.
He's a legislator for excellence and a hard-working legislator for that matter, because of the fact that during his tenure as chairman Rules and Business, the number of bills that were passed was unparalleled and unprecedented in the history of the House of Representatives. And this is purely as a result of his sense of commitment, dedication, as well as the determination and enthusiasm he has been showing in the discharge of the office of the chairman Rules and Business, which is the engine room of the House. Without his own unparalleled and unprecedented commitment to that work, the House of Representatives will not have achieved that feat. And then I also equally observe that he believes in punctuality. You will never see him coming late to the House, and he always stays throughout the proceedings of the House until after the formal adjournment of the House.
Okejev has actually performed that role exceptionally well. The other day I was with some of my colleagues and we're reviewing the 9th Assembly, and we're thinking, who are we going to find that would have that kind of everything that Okejev had to make sure that the Rules and Business Committee will be able to drive the legislative agenda of the 9th Assembly. Certainly, Okejev is going to be missed sorely. He's a very warm, amiable personality, underspoken, but packs a punch in terms of capacity. Offline, off camera, he is a very, very great friend. If he tells you he will do something, he will do something.
We have never had anything negative or somebody or member complaining about Okejev. So which means he was able to manage his relationship with his colleagues in spite of the challenges that are associated with his committee.
We have never had cause or any complaint against him because he has lived up to date in terms of keeping to his duty, listening to members, attending to their needs, even going out of his ways to please members. So for that, I recommend him that he's a very, very good fellow, a very nice chairman compared to others that I have met. Because members, if you are not living up to date, they complain, they come to the leaders to lay complaint for one reason or the other. I have never had cause for meeting a member that was complaining to him for lack of giving them audience, because audience matters in a working area.
On that personal note, he's a very amiable person. He's somebody that I can't remember seeing sad. So he has a way of overcoming whatever is disturbing him to make his friends happy. So on personal note, that's what I can say. But on the official aspect, I think he comes to me as somebody who likes his job. He likes challenges. And if you see the committee he handled, especially the Rules and Business Committee, it's a very challenging committee because you have to be on the floor every day. We are like the engine room of the house, because without you working, there won't be other papers, there won't be votes and proceeding. So the speaker relies so much on what Jeff, as the chairman of the Rules and Business Committee, is doing. So you can see that he is very, very instrumental to whatever the House was able to achieve in terms of passage of bills, in terms of motions that really shook the fabric of the nation, in terms of sensitivity, trying to make sure that everybody lives to his responsibilities.
Any issues whatsoever, is diligent, and once you have an issue and you go to him, he makes out time. It's not everybody that will do that. To make out time to listen to you, try and solve your problems. If it's an emotion, if your motion is not coming up, it takes time to explain to you why your motion is not coming up. A man of excellent values. His value system impacted very positively on his performance for that rather short period as the chairman, House Committee on Business and Rules. Jeff carried himself in a humble but very dutiful way. He got everybody working. Because one thing you must note is that the engine room of the National Assembly, particularly the House of Rep, is the Committee on Rules and Business. Both by way of programming, by way of integrity that it brought to bear, the incisive knowledge of the rules and standing orders of the House, and by the way he had listening ears to members, he made the House a great achiever in his time. If you go to the Hansard and to find out precisely what happened during Okejev's time, you'll find that the level of activities in our core area of expectation was second to none. It was during Okejev's time that the highest number of bills were admitted and processed in this House. That is the man Okejev. And I think he must have been very well brought up, because I again had the opportunity to serve as chairman to visit Benue on, a public-spirited notion that he moved about the need to construct a bridge at the Buruku crossing of River Castina Ala. And it was then I had a clearer understanding of where he is coming from and who he truly is. So I was able to situate his excellent performance in his upbringing, in his acceptability by his people, and his people-oriented attitude to politics.
I think for me, Right Honorable Okejev is one of the very few exceptional members of the House of Representatives, right from the time I started with him. Okejev is one member that you can aptly call a silent performer, silent achiever. He might look very quiet on the floor, but the kind of contribution he gives to the life of this House of Representatives, especially the 8th House of Reps, is one that you can hardly imagine. Okejev is wonderful. For me, Okejev is not only an intelligent lawyer or an experienced lawmaker, but Okejev is like one we can aptly call a peacemaker. He does his job with a lot of passion. He is not the type that will always look for what to compensate him with. I want to tell you one bad thing about our institution like this, is that whoever does what will look forward to be compensated. Sometimes you hear members arguing about juicy committees. Sometimes you hear members even resisting public office responsibility awarded them by leadership. We have quite a number of members who rejected appointment by the leadership of the House. And I will tell you, most of which were on the basis of selfish interest. Okay was never one. Okay can be given any responsibility and he takes it with all sense of commitment and responsibility. And he does that without any expectation. He is a ranking member. He's the type of member that would perhaps look for what they call juicy committees, but he never does that. Even when Okejev was asked to move out of the House Committee on Rules and Business to take over FCT, it was at a point when FCT was empty. On the 3rd year of a tenure, what do you get out of FCT? So moving Okejev from the House Committee of Rules and Business for me was neither a promotion nor an added advantage to him, but being a selfless person, a patriotic person, he willingly took over.
Well, Okejev, first and foremost, it's a very good performance. He's articulate, and we are very, very happy that we had such a wonderful person. So we really are going to miss him, because he's one among equals. So but like I said, we are going to miss him, and wherever he is going, the people will definitely find him in that quality. So it is well, but to God be the glory.
You can never catch him off guard when it comes to the business and rules work. I find him a resourceful person. I am a lawyer of many years, but I find that even in many cases when it concerns business and rules, he's my go-to man. He's somebody I turn to when I'm stuck somewhere and I try to clarify issues regarding the rules, the procedure, and he's always there to give a ready answer. So I find him a very brilliant young man. He's not going to like the fact that I'm calling him a young man, but this is the banter that him and I we exchange over the years. I call him, I say I'm his boss. He says he's my boss. So we've come to agree. I've conceded to him that he's my boss, and he's a good guy. He's going to the Senate. I came to realize that not only does he do his work passionately in the house, he's also very well loved at home back in Benue. And for that reason, he's moving on to the Senate. We will miss him in the house tremendously. It's going to be difficult to find somebody to fill the vacuum of chairman, business and rules. For those who are concerned with the House, or any legislative house for that matter, you know that the Business and Rules Committee is the engine room of legislative work of these chambers. It's 24/7 work. It requires dexterity, it requires passion, commitment, it requires a high level of intellect, it requires so much that it's difficult to find all those things embodied in one person. But he has been able to discharge those responsibilities that his office demands. He has been able to discharge them well, very well, as a matter of fact. So that's the much I have to say. There's a lot more to say about him, and he's also a very jovial person. Going away from the issue of legislative work, he's also a very jovial, fun person. There's never a dull moment around him. We sit on the same row. He sits like 3 seats away from me, and anytime I'm feeling a little bit, I feel like having a little bit of fun. I poke jabs at him, and he's very quick to return those jabs. So he's a good man, all in all.
The 8th Assembly is going down as the most resourceful in the annals of Nigeria's democracy, as it has recorded unprecedented number of bills and motions, more than any previous house. And out of the numerous, many were passed, concurred by the Senate, and assented to by the President. But on the side of that achievement was the nagging issue of duplication of previous bills and motions by some colleagues. How were you able to handle such ordeal?
Yes, that is another sore point. Some people will just go and copy an old bill and bring it, and when you point it out to them, they will be striving to let you know that it's a different motion when you know very well it's the same motion. Sometimes you change a word or two there and bring it. And I tried to be firm, but at a point it was like I was being too difficult. So I will advise you, but if you insisted, we'll bring it on the floor. But immediately the speaker asked me for my advice. I will advise that the matter should not be on the order paper, and it will be struck in the investigation. Thank you.
The Rules and Business Committee has always been manned by legal practitioners as chairman, just like you. All previous chairmen of the committee were or are lawyers. Are there certain peculiarities of the committee that require a sound knowledge of the law before chairing it?
Well, I won't say no, they can't do it, because what if in the whole assembly no lawyer is elected? It means that somebody will still be rules and business chairman, because you have a retinue of lawyers in the committee secretariat who will help you do the job. But I think you'll be hamstrung, because like I said, you are like the legal advisor of the house. You are asked to stand up and give legal advice sometimes in the course of your work. So if you are not a lawyer and you are asked to explain certain legal phenomenon, you may be hamstrung. So I think as long as there are lawyers in the house, they will find a lawyer to try to do the job.
What advice do you have for those coming into the 9th Assembly as regards to the workings of the House, and particularly the Rules and Business Committee?
Well, I'll be moving over to the Senate, so I'll be worrying myself more with what happens in the Senate. But to answer your question directly, the legislature is the least understood arm of government, and is the least underappreciated arm of government because of military intervention. Anytime the military intervene, they will sack the legislature, allow the judiciary to be there, allow the executive to be there. So people came to a point where they thought that even without the legislature, society can move on. But they failed to realize that without the legislature, there can be no democracy. And so, even when you are doing your job conscientiously, people still believe that, they are just wasting time collecting money for doing nothing. That should not demoralize anybody. People coming here should know, you stay focused and do your job. There may be inadequacies here and there, but I think in due course, people will understand what the legislature means to a democracy. And
Just leave your things there. The way
As a man of great sense of humor and responsibility, as a mark of good leadership achieved in a popular adage, to whom much is given, much is expected, the presiding officers have this to say about Okejev.
I got fascinated about his use of iPad. He does a lot of things on iPad, and which shows that he's computer compliant. And in fact, he told me so many things, so many activities he normally got engaged on when he's on his iPad. That was then in the 7th Assembly. And so when he left, I felt it, because we were separated by about 2 rows in the Assembly. There was never any week that we would not have at least a minimum of 5 to 10 minutes chat. So when he left, it was like I lost a friend in terms of election challenges in Nigeria. So by the time we came back in the 8th Assembly, it was an extension of the former leadership, and it was easy for me to relate with him. We belong to the same group that threw up the leadership of the House in the 8th Assembly, and that explained why he was given that role as the chairman of Rule and Business. Calm, intelligent, brilliant lawyers, and always thoughtful. And his relationship with others is just fantastic. When you see him, you see a complete gentleman. So my relationship with him is been long, and it's getting to close to 8 years now, which is sufficient to say who he is. He understands the job. He did it very well, and he did not do it in isolation. That is, people outside might not know how important that committee is, but that is the most important committee in terms of the direction of proceeding of the House on each plenary day. And whenever we make an observation on the other paper, Okejev will listen attentively. When it requires making correction, he does so accordingly. He does not argue unnecessarily. If you see something that is probably not befitting enough for other paper, he accedes to it so very readily, especially when you provide a very superior argument. So his chairmanship of the Rules and Business Committee for close to 3.5 years was fantastic. The Speaker and I are very proud of him, and that is a committee that you can only give to those who are brilliant, those who know what they are doing, those who are always present. You can't give that committee to a true.
All the members of that team met even before we constituted the committees to say, look, there's no person, no member of the House that fits that role other than Honorable Okejev. And the only difficulty we had then was whether he would even accept to serve as chairman of the Committee on Rules and Business, in view of the fact that so many members' aspiration really is not to chair that committee. That committee entails hard work, and it's the most technical committee in Parliament. It doesn't matter, not just Nigeria, but anywhere in the world. That's the most technical committee. That's the committee that does virtually everything, set the agenda for sittings, for debates, and when there are difficult issues relating to interpretation of the rules, they provide like the compass that guides whoever is presiding to help him resolve those issues. So it was based on the competence he had displayed before now on the floor of the House that led almost all of us to unanimously agree that he should chair that committee. The only problem was that we had to beg him, really. Maybe he had some other plans. He would have loved maybe to head another committee other than the Rules and Business. But given the nature of who Okejev is, when we suggested to him that this is where we want him to serve, without grudges, he accepted and said, well, this is where you want me to serve, and we believe that I would improve on your leadership by serving in this position, then certainly I don't have any objection. If it were any other person who played a role in my emergence at the kind of role Honorable KJF played, he probably would have demanded for something else. But he accepted it, knowing fully well that this is a committee that entails work and hard work. If you are not a hard worker, you can't be in that committee scheduling businesses on the floor, and then not only doing that, you have to be available constantly when the House is sitting, because they will need your guidance and so on and so forth. So he accepted this opportunity to serve the House and to serve the Nigerian public. He didn't want a place where he can just serve himself, but to serve the people. And I think this highlights or give us some kind of a peep into his heart. His is a heart for the common man, heart for service, for others, not for himself. And I'm not surprised that the people of his constituency have realized this, and against all odds, have decided that he should escalate his representation of the community by moving to the Red Chamber as a senator-elect, as now senators, very soon to be senator, in order to continue this wonderful work of representation and to represent them with distinction and excellence. And I have no doubt that wherever KJ finds himself, he will be able to distinguish himself as a parliamentarian of highest repute. And also when you have already mastered the rules of the game, because everything on the floor is not just that you have an issue, you have to present that issue in line with let-down procedure. And he knows all the rules of the House. He helped us in crafting this set of rules that now regulate our conduct in the House of Representatives. And the rules in the Senate are not radically different from our own. And as he moved to the Senate, I know that he'll be able to carry on doing his work with distinction, as he's always been known to.
Okay, so when we came in this 8th Assembly, after the inauguration, naturally people were lobbying to be made chairman of committee. I had the honor of being called by Mr. Speaker himself. He called me aside and told me that he wanted me to man the Rules and Business Committee, first in an ad hoc status, and later when the standing committees were put together, I continued as the standing committee chairman of Rules and Business. So I didn't have the anxiety that my colleagues have, those who were angling, lobbying to be made one chairman or the other. So very early in the day, I think it was on the second day of my inauguration that the Speaker told me this. So and I agreed. I said, because he said he felt that if I was made the chairman, if I become the chairman, I will help him to stabilize the House. And I felt that was an honor, and I agreed.
On the whole, I can say that it was an excellent working relationship that we had, and he is very apt at any time we call upon him, unlike some of the chairman rules and businesses that we've had in the course of my sojourn here in the House of Representatives, that we even quote order when the order is not there. But he will refer to the order, interpret the order in the context in which the debates are being conducted on the floor. And so his knowledge and his competence, his expertise on the rule was something that you couldn't challenge. And if you're a speaker, you have such a person, what more, what else would you ask for? But I haven't seen a single attribute in KJF that suggests that he was willing to do something untoward in order to even help the leadership or help himself. He was truthful, full of candor, and always, sticking to the rule. He's a stickler to the rule. You can hardly find an individual in whom all these wonderful attributes combines all these wonderful attributes. So for me, it's been an excellent working relationship, and as a matter of fact, he was able to distinguish himself while holding that position. leadership position in the House. I'm proud of him. I'll continue to be proud of him.
His colleagues are not left out. They also have this to say.
I can say he's somebody who is very patient, somebody who tries to listen to all sides of opinion, and then, as you know the law is, he tries to interpret the law as it is, not minding the relationship between himself and the other person involved. He is, as we have it, as the custodian of the house rule, and I think he has done his job very well. His hard work, his honesty, and diligence to duty, these are things that distinguish Honorable Okejev with so many other members. And I am sure he will do very well for his people in the Senate where he is going.
Honorable Okejev, it's somebody that I find a little bit difficult to pick the proper adjective to qualify him. Quintessential legislator, very grounded in the House rules and procedure, and of course he was a round peg in a round hole while he acted as the chairman of that committee of rules and business in the House. He related very cordially with members on the floor of the House and even outside the floor of the House. If there is any fault I will find in him is to say that he was excessively passionate when it comes to issues that border on the welfare of his constituents. He almost took it personal on the floor of the House. Well, that might not be a fault because he is a legislator and he is there to protect their interest. But he's a perfect gentleman.
For some of us that are first timers, he was very, very influential. He mentored us, and I'm very happy to relate with Okejev because that has also helped me tremendously. As a result of his mentorship, I can tell you I have so many number of bills and motions also to my credit, and we are also mentoring others now. So he has been doing quite exceedingly well. Professionally, he has demonstrated that he is well ready for the job. In fact, now that he has been elected as Senator of the Federal Republic, I can assure you that he will still distinguish himself in the upper chamber.
Very measured, because I think at the back of his mind he has the thoughts that even in making his presentations, that the idea is not to ruffle feathers but to be a problem solver. And so you find that, and I think it comes from maturity and a great understanding of the law, of the legislature, and how the legislature is supposed to work. Now, lots of people, some people think erroneously that being of the opposition or being in the legislature means you must constantly be a part of the problem rather than a solution to the problem. And I find that he is, he consistently wants to be a part of the solution to the problems. Now, and of course that's carried over to his functions as the chair of business and rules. Now that is easily one of the most important committees on the floor of the House, because basically that's the engine room of the day-to-day running of the chambers. And the way in which he calmly, and there were so many people, of course Nigerians believe that the more bills the legislator has, the better the legislator is. So some people have a bill overload, and the way he was able to manage them, the way he was able to slit the bills in a way that didn't ruffle feathers, in the way that he was able to direct the House in a way that did not make the House rancorous. Because if he had a divisive chair of business and rules, that the House would go up in smoke. But he had a way of doing everything he had to do while dousing the tensions on the floor of the House. And I think again that stems from his character as a person. He's very calm, he's not confrontational, and yet he's very effective. So I think that those were the that's my thinking of him in his capacity as the chair of the Committee of Business.
He made sure that bills and motions were slated as at when due on the floor of the House. He carried on his job with all sense of humility. He's a humble man, and he's very active on the floor of the House, and he's somebody who is representing his constituency very well, to the extent that most time on the floor of the House he takes the lead in most motions, especially those things that concern his constituency and Nigeria at large. And for me, Honorable Okejev is somebody that we want to have back as chairman of Rules and Business of 9th Assembly. But fortunately for him, he's moved to the next level and he's a senator-elect. And we all just hope and pray that he will find a lot of support from the Senate, because having looked at his record, they will also know that, having looked at his record from when he became the Rules and Business chairman, I'm sure that the Senate will not take him as just any ordinary member, because being conversant with the rules of the House will give him a leverage in Senate. So for me, Honorable Okejev, our senator-elect, is good to go. He's a competent chairman. Even today, he's still a competent member of House of Representatives. He's very hardworking, he's very humble, he's very open, he's very accessible, he's an accessible member. There's no aura of flares around him. He doesn't carry himself like somebody you can't assess. And I know that that's why his constituency, they were able to vote him and give him a higher responsibility. So he's just a perfect gentleman, very good to go, and I wish him all the best.
He brought into Rules and Business a flair, a unique approach. Before Okejev, I never believed we could be taking 15, 70, 20 motions, bills, and what have you. But I come to realize one thing about leadership, that leadership is about breaking new ground that nobody has thought of. So Okejev brought that into being.
Some staff, including journalists, about the person of Honorable Okejev.
Personal relationship with him has been so cordial, and of course, as a ranking member and from the food basket of the nation, people are in love with him just as they are in love with food. There is no man that can do without food, so he is among his colleagues. He's a humble gentleman. One thing I like about him is about his humility. Humility can never be bought from the market, but humility can buy you several things from the market. And that is why when I heard that he has just won his senatorial seat, I'm not surprised, because he's a man, despite of his intimidating credentials, he's a humble, gentleman, easygoing man that is in love with everybody.
He's a good man, he's a hardworking, he's a friendly man, and he's always punctual in his duties. And he carries all his duties every time, every day, He's always there. He knows what to do. He plays. He's a very simple man. He carries everybody along.
The man has shown a great level of humility relating with his colleagues on the floor of the House. And at the committee level too, I also believe that the level of humility, candor, and the temperament he shows on the floor of the House would also have been transferred to his colleagues at committee levels.
Mr. Speaker, I'm at once sad and happy today. I'm sad because I'm not coming back to the Green Chambers. I'm sad because I'm going to miss a lot of friends. I won't be lying if I say that maybe some for life we will never see again. The reality of life. I miss the brotherhood. I miss the mischief from my former neighbors, Femi Badabia and his deputy, Idris Wase. I'm happy because I'm moving over to the Red Chambers. And for those who are going to come back to the Green Chambers, I'm sure we'll still be interacting as brothers and as colleagues here. Mr. Speaker, I'm speaking on behalf of the North Central. The North Central has 51 members on the floor. It's a region that has been devastated by unmitigated violence. And I do hope that in the 9th Assembly, since today in Nigeria, development comes through Development Commission, the North Central too will have its own Development Commission in order to bring faster development to the region. I just pray, and since I'm going to be part of the National Assembly, either way, I think that will be pursued.